My older brother has kind of always been my hero. We were raised by loving parents and were always pretty well off growing up. Not rich as in we could just do whatever the hell we wanted, but we had our needs and a lot of our wants. His whole life Parker has been the most stand-up, well-to-do, like able, man. I don't think I can stress enough how awesome my brother has always been. This guy has had exactly 3 girlfriends his whole life. 2 were in high school, they ended just like any high school relationship does, nothing crazy. Then he met his wife Stacy freshman year of college. They got married right after, and from everything I have ever seen, heard from either of them, or anyone who knows them, they are a perfect loving couple. Now, due to fertility issues for both of them, it has been impossible for them to conceive. I know that has hurt him, as he has shared with me as much. This would be the only thing I have ever seen as something bad between them. But my brother even took that in stride, telling me, it just means Stacy and I are meant to spend more time together. That's exactly what they have done. My brother owns 2 car dealerships. Well, I guess it's the same dealership, he just has 2 locations here in Franklin. I work for my brother as the head of the maintenance division. This is where my concerns begin. About 6 weeks ago he hired a new woman for the receptionist position. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first. He gave me a quick lowdown on her based on her interview and resume, plus a little chit-chat they had during the process. Nothing seemed off. His reactions to her and the stuff he said didn't seem any different than any other hire he's had in the 8 years we've been working together. Basically, he just told me, she moved to Nashville trying to be a country singer when she was 20. Had another receptionist job at a doctor's office. That doctor died in an accident recently, this I vaguely remember reading about, which has ended up closing his practice. He didn't mention in any of the weeks leading up to what happened, her looks. Octavia is gorgeous. A real true-to-form head-turner. If she can't make it as a country singer, I have no doubts she would have little trouble finding a country singer to marry her. She is that attractive. I just never thought my brother would fall for all of that. 2 weeks ago we had a big sales event. The dealership was open later than usual. On these events my team and I usually don't have extended hours, but I typically stay around to help out with whatever I can. It was closing and the only people still around were myself, Parker, and Octavia. I headed out right away as my girlfriend had messaged me that she was out with some mutual friends and wanted me to come join her at a favorite local spot of ours. It was about 3 hours later I got a call from Stacy saying Parker never came home. I freaked out, I will admit it. This is not what my brother does. He has never not called Stacy to let her know where he will be or when he will be home. My girlfriend and I had just gotten back to her place, so I flew back to the dealership. His car was not there. I went into the office and got into his employee files. I found Octavia's number and called her. She told me Parker was there with her. That he had followed her home. I was very irate and began to lay into her. After just a few moments though I said I was coming over there, her address was on the file. She hung up on me and I punched the address into my Maps app. It was the address to the Arby's. I went to Arby's and obviously they had never heard of Octavia Norman. I called up Stacy and told her that I found Parker. Which was a lie, but I didn't want to freak her out, so I told her he was at the office still. That there was a huge problem with a couple of sales, his phone died, and that he couldn't find his charger. I could tell by her voice she didn't believe anything I was saying. I had my mind made up though. The second my brother came in I was going to rip him a new one. I could not believe he would do such a thing. I got into the dealership early. I was doing my usual duties but keeping an eye out for Parker. He never showed. He is never ever late, then suddenly my phone starts going off. It's Stacy again. She tells me Parker just showed up at the house absolutely manic, ranting about he doesn't love her, can't stand to look at some infertile bitch who can't bear his children and she needs to get the fuck out. She can't even get a word in. He just keeps saying that she has to leave. She can have everything else, he only wants the house. She is absolutely in hysterics telling me this. I'm getting worried because I can tell she is driving, she tells me eventually between gasps she is heading to her sister's house. I tell her I will figure this out. I rush over to the house, and sure enough, he's gone again. I'm getting frustrated now and start spam calling his phone over and over. After about the 9th call he finally answers and I ask him, what the fuck is going on? He says, don't worry about it, it's my fucking life, I'll do what I want. Stacy and I are done, and if you don't like it you can get the fuck out of my life too. That was like a punch in the face. Who was this guy? That is not my brother. The crazy thing was he sounded more scared than angry when he was saying that to me. I went back to the dealership at that point and waited to see if he would come in, but he never did. He didn't the rest of the week, and neither did Octavia. Parker went and got the divorce papers made. He is being really generous with Stacy from a financial standpoint, which also makes his sudden cruelty towards her so disconcerting. He will not talk to her, and if she tries he insults her and tells her to get out of his life. It wasn't but the second day when he had movers at the house. He packed up any possible thing that she could want and sent it over to her sister's house. He even bought her a storage unit near there for anything that wouldn't fit. I was completely mind blown. How does a person go from making one woman his whole world, to suddenly doing everything he can to get her to go away? The very next day he moved Octavia into his home. When they returned to work the following weekend he announced that she would now be his personal secretary. He has never had one of those before, and that my receptionist in the maintenance center would now be handling that for the dealership side as well. I went into his office and closed the door the second he went in. I didn't waste any time and we got into a huge argument. It ultimately concluded with him telling me, if you don't like the way things are now then you can fucking quit. I don't want to hear about it again. In fact, if I do, if you say one more fucking word about Stacy, or Octavia, or what I do with my own life, I will fire you and every member of your team. And don't think I fucking won't, I can get more mechanics tomorrow, no problem. At that point I just walked out. I have been doing this job for another week now. At the same time I have been watching my brother closely. He seems to be constantly on edge and very agitated at even the smallest thing. This has never been him. On top of that he bosses Octavia around like she's some sort of dog. I hated her when all this began to go down, but now, I don't even know what to think. I was sure she was the one driving the ship, that she had used her looks to ensnare him, but he treats her like absolute shit. Constantly talking down to her and degrading her, even in front of others. I have very little doubt, though no hard proof, that he is making her perform sexual acts on him during the day. I don't know what it is. I'm starting to wonder if he has a brain tumor or something. Seriously, I can't imagine any other way a person goes from being the best most beloved man in 100 people's lives to a complete monster in 2 weeks. I'm navigating a way to get an intervention or something going. Anytime I talk to him he threatens me. I don't want to get fired, not because I need this job, I can get another good job, but because I feel I need to keep an eye on this. There's something wrong with him, and I feel like I at least owe it to him to try and figure out what.